Today, in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration of freedom in our nation. 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree was a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. This came as joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro is still not free. 100 years later, the Negro is still badly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languishing in the corners of American society as an exile in his own land. We have come here to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we have come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our country wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were writing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, black men and white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We must forever conduct our struggle on the uphill plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests to degenerate into physical violence. This marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not destruct all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. We cannot walk alone, and as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always keep marching. We cannot turn back. There are those asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? And we would not be satisfied as long as the Negro is subject to the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. Cannot be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain entry to the hotels of the cities or the motels of the highways. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. Cannot be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their adulthood by signs stating for whites only. Cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and the Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice comes down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. I say to you today, my friends, although we face the battles of today and tomorrow, I have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day in the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, one day in Mississippi will become an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that one day my 4 children will live in a nation that does not judge them by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream that one day in Georgia, with its vicious racist, with its governor whose lips are dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, that one day right there in Georgia, little black boys and black girls will be to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. When this day comes, all people will be able to sing with a new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to become a great nation, this must be true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California.